let me ask you, your name again, I'm sorry.
Ann.
Ann, right? So you were saying, you've had that discussion with the class. So give me, just one of your normal classes, how you prepare for it, and not to judge you or anything, just how do you prepare for it? What does the normal classroom exercise look like, or what's the expectation for that class?
Well, I have a lot of teaching experience, and I've never had situations like this. I've had, I tell them right up front, no phones, no computers, everything put away. It worked the first month. Slowly it comes back, and I then come back and say, okay, if you don't put your phones away, I have to take them away.
Right.
Well, finally one guy came out again, and I went up to him and said, okay, I'm taking it.
Lost it. Right. Lost it.
And started swearing,
Of course.
and so I was like, all right, I'll give you guys another chance then. But since then, everybody's doing phones, everybody's doing computers, and I got to the point where
That's when you need to say, it's time to get out. I mean, you don't have to give me your cell phone, but you'll have to leave. That would be you're gonna have to kick them out. You guys can't tolerate disrespect not only for you, but you're disrespecting the other students that want to learn. I cannot tolerate this. I mean, you're just gonna say, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to leave. You can have your phone anywhere outside these walls, but inside these walls.
And you guys know, we'll back you up. You gotta leave, you're gonna have to leave.
Well, I'm in Danbury.
And you have security, down at Danbury.
I don't know where they are. But
But you don't walk out getting.
But I don't have the two professors like you with their backing. I had to start communication with one professor.
Your
Let me give an example.
And I couldn't get through to that person. Last semester, same thing. I was the one who initiated it. The second one, I don't even know who she is.
Julia, can you?
We didn't get to finish the introductions because when I would say the frustration with SI is getting my folks to communicate,
Can I say
Are you
something?
English?
Can I just say something about everybody here?
She's the English.
Dave can understand the context. We have people that have been here 12, 15 years. We have 2 faculty members with vast experience.
Right.
We have new tutors, of course. Everyone works their butts off. Okay, I see that clearly. Then we have Julia, who is not only a faculty member, she's an interim division department chair, and also an SI leader.
Right.
So it's really really interesting perspective.
So Julia,
you're teaching the SI
I
course,
teach
right?
one as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're like the faculty person that was working with the SI sessions that they're doing, right? Or are you actually teaching the SI session itself?
Both. So I teach 2 sections of 096, so I have
Right.
2 supplemental instructors that go with my courses, but I also am a supplemental instructor for one of my
I got
colleges.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see the same frustrations in both the regular section and then the SI component?
I have a very different experience in the classroom, and even when I come in here, my folks know, but I'm doing different preparation, right? And so my folks know when I come in, we're doing this today, let's get it, I had one student who really was not keen on it, and it was a lot of, we have to do homework in here too. And my approach to that was, you don't have to, but we are. And so we went on to do the stuff, and can I get a sheet? Because you're either with us, or and so she's been doing the work like she's supposed to. But for me, we have a plan, this is how it goes. I think what's been also important for me, it's a tough thing to do with SI, much better in the classroom, to learn their names. And so when we start talking, I go, Melissa, what are we on to now? And they really love it. When they come in, I'm like, hey, Katie, how you doing today? How's class going?
Yep.
So I've gotten to know them a bit, and it feels like, and they leave, and they're like, Miss, I'll see you next week.
Right.
And so that's how that's going for me in SI, but also in the classroom.
Yep.
But it's because I'm bringing what I do in the classroom to SI, So.
And there's so much value to that. There's so much value into understanding who your students are and knowing them. It's a tough spot where you're in without any leverage, because it's really the grades are not dependent on it, but you have to, like Julie's saying, you have to structure the environment. Even if it is just doing homework, you have to structure it and you gotta follow through. I am the person that would never kick somebody out of class, so it took a lot to kick me out of class. She knows me from Willoughby High School. She used to be a student in my classroom. She was in my homeroom and stuff like that. But you know, you just have to develop this set of skills that addresses everything. That addresses mentorship, understanding the kids and their names and what they're going through. You know, I never advise to like take personal property because I'm not surprised the kid flipped out. I would almost with that kid, just you gotta leave, man. Or pull that kid out and say, if you can't do this, just walk out the door, come back tomorrow with a better mindset. But the rest of this class cannot see you doing that. And then come back in and address it with the class once that kid's gone. You never want to embarrass that child. But, you know, if the student leaves and leaves peacefully or leaves swearing but left, you know, address with the class. Guys, I don't want to kick anybody out. I am here to instruct you, but there was a breaking point and a tipping point. We are here for one purpose, and that is to learn math, that is to learn English, that is to survive in this college atmosphere. And what you just showed the class is that you are going to follow through on that. You know, it's a little tricky. I mean, you got to, you know, like Julie's saying, the best thing you can do is day one in every single session, reiterate the rules, reiterate what you're doing, and follow through. You know, to try to address it now, it can be done. It'll be a little difficult, but you're, you know, having those conversations, just saying from this point on, we're going to structure this environment, you know, make it about them, get to know them. You know, I was saying this with something like a do now or an opening exercise. If you were just going around the room and I tap Marty on the shoulder, hey, you having a good day today? You know, and just talk to them individually. It just shows that you care. You know, and I don't doubt that you care. But some of our students, they just need that. They need that reinforcement that you are going to be there for them, and that you're not just some person trying to shove math down their throat for an extra hour or two a week. You know.
I do think it's a little different though for math, because right now we, in English, we do have lessons planned, like this session would be about this or what have you. I think it's tougher when you don't know what the professor has assigned, and then you're like, we're gonna have to make it up on the spot, and I'm just seeing it when they walk in. I don't know.
Well, we really don't use even the board. It's good to go where ours is going around.
Computer and start doing your homework. Like that's what we tell them to sign in.
And do your and this is why you get kids downloading rap videos.
And then, well, let me ask you this: so they're on the computer. What are you guys doing?
We're walking around. Answering questions.
Tutoring as the need arises.
Okay.
We're seeing if they need.
So we're not actually really teaching anything unless
Right.
like a group of people have the same question, then we can go up on the board and go
Okay.
through something.
Okay.
But normally everyone's working at their own pace, and we're just going around checking if they need help, answering different questions. Like
And
I
if
spend hours doing lesson
Right.
plans.
No, and I'm not asking.
Like
you know, I'm not
said.
asking, but I think
No,
you
but
know.
I think
And you're
in
not getting
English you
paid.
have to.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, some of it, I think, let me just address the first thing. So I think that when you guys are going around to the computers, right, and they're not having any questions for you, then what do you do?
Well, I'll ask them how they're doing in class. Like, do you have all your homework 90 or above?
Right.
Did you get all your quizzes in? Are you ready for your next testing? Or you have another? I try to look on the syllabus to see, or get in contact with teachers, see when the next test is, or else one of the students I know who, you know, do you guys have a test? How did that test go? You know, and then I'll go around, well, how'd you do on the last test? And, you know, but a lot of times it'll be like, you know, hey, let's look at your grades. Hey, I know your homeworks aren't all up to 90s. You can,
Right.
you know, still go into your homeworks and do it. You know, so, but, you know, today I had 2 kids that never showed up, and they just sat there with their laptops in front of them and talked. To the detriment of the 3 or 4 tables that were around.
Right. Now you have the option to take one of those students and just bring them to one side of the classroom, working independently with that kid, and then just isolating that other kid.
No, these 2 just didn't want to. See, we don't. I don't know
The
what.
general feeling is that a lot of students aren't prepared to be asked that. I would like for you to move your seat.
Right.
Because, you know, you're feeling really social and chatty today, so it's, you know, you're not getting a lot done, you know. But I know you do, maybe you try to be as positive as you possibly can. But I think that all the students seem to be shocked if you ask them to change their behavior at all.
Right.
And my biggest problem, honestly, with my lower level class, which is in my experience where a lot of my behavior is that there's not a clear understanding between myself and the faculty person about what the rules are.
Right.
So, and I agree, we need some concrete rules, and we felt that way all semester. But unless our faculty know that those rules are taking place in SI, then it's hard.
Now, do you have time to go talk to faculty members?
My faculty person is in the
Which
section.
is good, but I know not everybody does.
He's a lot more tolerant to
Right.
behavior than I am.
Okay.
Though I don't know this person, but I suspect that, because if I had to attend an SI session with my classes, I would sit back because I don't want to feel like I'm encroaching on what is supposed to be your space and your show. So he might be going, how does she want to handle that?
Well, I am happy to have him there, literally just to answer more math questions, or a lot of times students say, hey, I can't understand, when this homework is due, or could you reopen? So in this web-based program, you can ask your instructor to reopen a homework that's past due, and maybe he'll, consider that. And so I don't mind him being there, but he's extremely tolerant. So here's another example. And one of the things that we might talk about maybe separately is attendance taking, how that affects PW.
Wait, so you
PA
1240.
Yeah, and I knew that, I just couldn't bring it up. How that, because he kept coming to me and saying, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so are excused. And I would say, well, just so you understand, the record taking for attendance in these sessions is they're absent or they're present. And there's no excused absences, it's just whether they're here or not. So you can, if you want to excuse a student, that's fine in terms of how you want.
Right, but your records are gonna show their absence.
But here, because we're trying to show that students that are present are going to be more successful. So I can't have, marks in my attendance book that are saying somebody's here because he excused them when they're not.
No, absolutely. That's
And he was
correct.
fine with that, he understood that, but there needs to be, that understanding between faculty and SI leaders of what's acceptable in any.
I think, would it be beneficial for, I can only speak for math, but if the instructor were to come to the SI session and then kind of say, after we develop the rules, because I'm gonna develop some rules, but then I'm gonna pass it around and then you guys add on to it, like you say, well, this needs to be said and this needs to be said, or you can take this out. But once the rules are developed, maybe I'll ask the instructors to stop in and be the first person to introduce the rules and say, okay, now these are the new rules for SI. This person needs to be treated just like you would if it was me. And here's the rules. And if I find out anything has been infracted, you will be asked to go. I'll be the one that would tell you're going to be asked to go, and you're going to be expected to go. If you're asked to go, you better go. They will call somebody from security to come get you. And so just spell it out and just say, I expect you guys to respect each other and actually help each other and benefit each other. And if you don't, that's something that's distracting, and we're not going to have that. So
But
maybe
Jane,
we introduce.
Should that be the instructor, or should it be, let's say Rob, who comes because it happens in the space and declares that this is how this space, the ACE, is going to work?
Yeah, so maybe Rob should.
Yeah.
And maybe
But the
this
first
is-
time
And
that
the
is, they're
instructor
going to
could
do
it
it.
in class.
Yeah, in class.
Yeah, and
that's
then the instructor could do it in class. That's
Okay.
good. That's good. Yeah.
I just have one other question about classroom rules, and that is about people arriving late and leaving early, because that's a colossal problem that I'm experiencing. And it's interesting because I tend to feel fairly comfortable in an authoritative position, but I saw things crumbling fast. So I actually this semester said, you know what, clearly I need to lower the bar on my expectations, because people were not even coming anywhere near close to that. So I said, all right, maybe I need to relax a little bit. And so one day, while my instructor was in the session with me, a student got up and left 16, 17 minutes early. Didn't speak to me about why. And this is a student that I had spoken to in the past about leaving early. And I said, you know what, just for today, I'm just going to sit here and watch what happens. And 5 people in the next 5 minutes got up and left. So oftentimes it's that behavior, and you guys know this,
Because
it's
you
that
see nothing's
behavior
happening, they're
that
gonna do it
affects the other students. So we need rules about, and I don't know how that works in the classroom. I've walked into a classroom when I was a student late, not very often, so maybe then it was tolerated by the professor. But if it's on a really regular basis, I
Does
need
that
to know how to
impact
handle that.
impact their grade in any which
There
way?
are notations that say late and left early and that kind of stuff.
There's an LE left early. Yeah.
And let me be honest, I've told Rob in terms of that kind of data taking, if I have a large group, I'm not necessarily going to stop tutoring a student working through a problem hopefully I'll remember, but if one student gets up and leaves early, it's a toss-up whether I'm gonna
Right.
remember at the end of that session to mark them as left early, you know, because I'm in the middle of tutoring a student.
Right.
Could you distribute like a sign-up sheet at the very end as you're wrapping up with the group? Just send out, hey guys, just make sure you sign out and don't leave it like, so someone could sign out 10 minutes early, but have it available so that you know who left and who didn't.
I've had a hard time just getting them to sign in.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you know, we're throwing out a lot of negatives today, and I.
No, listen, I feel you.
Just
I
trying to
think,
think
but you know,
through it.
signing in is one thing, but like signing out says that they were there for the class. You know, unless the kid's coming in 15, 20 minutes late, and then just to sign
They
in.
do.
I mean, that's
They
again, you know,
come in
I
very
think
late.
is knowing everybody's name.
And then, because I love this idea because it's a couple things. I love this idea because it's written. Because all my verbal instructions, well, we've all had that experience, whether it's a husband or a child or a student, who they just hear half of what you say, and I can't get over how many times I've repeated things orally, and students will say, oh, you mean I have to sign that book every time I come in?
Right.
You know, so I love the idea of written, but that's for a class opener. If, you know, 25% of my students are arriving 10 minutes or more late, then
Yeah, that's what yeah. Because I think that's a great idea, but I just don't know how realistic it's going to work in our classrooms.
Right, and then that's where, you know, if that's not going to work with kids, like there's got to be a culture set that when you walk into this space, you know, bottom line is it's on you. You know, we could put measures in, we could talk to faculty, get more commonality, but at the end of the day, it's going to be your strategies that you implement with that group, you know, because nobody else is in this space, regardless if the faculty member is involved or not. So you have to really refine your approach and have kind of in your toolkit, how am I going to handle every single one of these situations, you know, and it may just be that little extra preparation. So I call it lesson planning, you just call it, okay, I know these 20 kids are going to come in, 5 are going to set up shop and do work, but what am I going to do with these 15 other kids? And have that preparation set in stone. All right, and then be able to be like malleable a little bit to like go with the flow. But I can see if there's no culture set and a student walks into the room, I would do the same thing as a 37-year-old adult because I did it when I was a 15-year-old kid. You know, if you walk into a professional development as a teacher, right? We all been in these professional developments or something like that, 10 minutes late, and everyone's kind of talking. What are you going to do? I'm going to get myself a snack. I'm going to talk to my buddy in the back, and no one's kind of controlling the environment, right? The expectation of the day. What do you think you're going to do? That's why I'm saying you've got to kind of like almost micromanage to a T what you're going to do that day and how you're going to handle every one of those situations. And that's a hard thing to do.
But I would say also, beyond that, as much as you plan it, it is not ever going to be perfect.
Right.
Right? And so I think what has to happen for us as then the tutors is understanding, first of all, that it's not personally about us. Because I think a lot of the emotion become, I'm failing now, oh God. And then we get ourselves worked up. I think it has to be, we have to remember that these are adults, because we keep saying kids, and I do that in class all the time, like these kids. These are adults, and there still needs to be some responsibility for them. My students understand very clearly, you don't go to SI, it affects your grade in this class. We're not talking about that anymore. I will get a report that tells me if you went or you did not go, I'm done with that. If you chose not to go, you deal with that. And so when I'm the SI also, if you choose to leave early, I can write that down, and I said, Ricardo left early, got that. I wrote that, no problem. I just note that, but it's not me having to say, Ricardo, why are you leaving early all the time? He doesn't do that, by the way. But I would never do that. It's Ricardo already knows you're leaving early all the time. The other people, if they all want to get up and leave en masse, that's them. At some point, it has to be you take responsibility for your education. Actions have consequences. That's that. If 3 people stay out of the 20, I am here for the hour. I can work with the 3. And the rest of it doesn't have to be, oh my God, look at what they're doing. Yeah, look at what they're doing. I am guilty of, on occasion, saying to my classes, listen, I already have my degrees, so I need you to do your work because I'm good. You understand what I'm saying?
I said it too, I already know this. I'm not here to relearn it.
Yeah, and the moment I say that, we understand there is a part for you. I plan to bring it. You better be ready. You know, and if you just set that up, that I'm doing my part, and so the other 3 who stayed were like, no man, we did some stuff while you guys were gone. Too bad, I'm not doing it again next time though, because you missed it. you know? And so they understand, we've gotta stay for this, we've gotta do this, you know?
Like again, math though, I'm finding that in maybe one or two of my classes, the teachers really care. They say the other students don't think that, they think that this is just whatever. If I go, if I do anything, it doesn't matter. Now, I know one of the teachers told them it's going on to the end, their year-end grade, so they can get up to like 5 points on their year-end grade. So, but, you know, I think other teachers have expressed that verbally as to how much it impacts their grade.
I don't know if you guys, but for us in English, it has to be clearly stated on the syllabus what percentage.
We decided to let the faculty decide,
Oh, okay.
but we said, I mean, the idea was 5% of the grade. So like I said, for mine, I just make sure I call it SI week 8, you know, will be this week, and that they see the grade in my math lab when they open it, it's sitting there right there the next time. As soon as I get the thing from Brittany, I put the grade in and they see, and they know, like it's affecting. And let me tell you, one time I didn't do it, and they're like, did I get his, what? Did I get counted? Because you put it in, there's a 0 there, and I was like, no, I just didn't update the grade yet. But I mean, they're freaking out, like, because they're used to seeing it, you know, immediately. That's just a regular one.
I had a
What kind of
professor
shock
that
did
would
that-
say, that would have a test to bring them in on time and early in the session, would have, like you said, like Jane was saying, the extra credit. First 15 minutes of the class, between, it starts at 4, between 4 and 4:15, there's extra credit. You come and do that. So those people come and they want to have their extra credit, so they'll be there. And those that come in late will miss it.
You could do that.
And that's on a regular basis. And then for the next 45 minutes, everything is kind of set up, like you said, they.
But it's kind of crazy that you're giving them extra credit for what they should be doing to begin with, you know, so I'm just like, I say, you know, it just, what I do is if they missed any portion, and if Brittany writes it down, and they missed any portion of the class, I give them 50%. I give them a 50. They either get 0, 50, or 100, and I go, I don't care if you were gone 2 minutes. If Brittany writes it down that you left the class, then it's 50, you know, and again, they see it immediately, and that's what makes the difference. They see that grade.
Yeah, and I
They
know
don't like seeing it.
they love to see their grade
Yeah.
online.
I think we would do best to have at least some type of system,
Yeah.
whether it ends up being 5% or 10% of their grade, that we have to get an attendance system for math that's the same across the board, because we're all doing things differently. In my particular session, I don't mark whether people are late or early, because again, I'm not gonna get up from even if I carry the darn thing with me, I can't continuously interrupt working with students to mark other students late and early.
Right.
Then that's like ridiculous. That's like, you know, me having to react to their bad behavior by shorting other students. And that's just this one particular class. It may not be an issue in others. You know, but
And maybe you guys, you know, as like kind of next steps is, you know, talk to Rob, sit down as a group together with your team and just talk to him about how we want to make this a little more consistent. You know, I'm from an outsider looking at this, so I can't comment on how we can do it at a division level or a faculty level or an SI level, but I think his next steps is, you know, it seems like it needs to be more formalized across the board so that if you have faculty involvement, great, it's a bonus, it's only going to help, and if you don't, which we all know that may not have it, I mean, just whatever, it's just the real world, there is a system in play that's structured and consistent, and that message is given to students every single day they walk in here from day one. That's kind of what I'm thinking I'm hearing here.
we're not shocked that we were having significant growing pains, because we
No
put
doubt.
this program together in
Right.
like an incredibly short,
Right,
and
oh
it
yeah,
grew
very new.
super fast.
Right. And I'm not, and from a
But it's
mindset
been
of the
really hard on
students,
staff.
you know.
Morale is not good
Yeah.
for the math tutors, where everybody's exhausted,
Mhm.
and that makes it that much harder to do the work that we normally love to do and do well for our
Right,
students.
right, and that's where the structure and consistency, I think, comes into play. Which is also hard work too, but I think having these conversations and then putting it on paper, and you know, then Rob takes it to a division meeting or takes it to the division directors or the deans to say, hey, maybe we can instill this into our SI sessions or SI classes and sections. Because I'm not surprised, you know, when Rob came to me to do this little talk with you guys, I'm not surprised. I mean, you're essentially, even if they're old adults, or, you know, we're calling them adults, they're acting like high school. The maturity level, the academics, you know, level, they're very similar, if not the exact same as kids I've taught my first career in high school.
Right.
You know, it's just kind of developing those strategies and you know, not feeling like you're alone, not feeling like you can't do it. But also, you know, this is the collegiate level, and these kids have to have some sort of ownership of their actions. You know, our students should have ownership of their actions.